Today is the last of our series of Financial Literacy Month webinars. We have Michael Trickla with us today, who's a certified financial planner in our Rapport Wealth team. Will be talking to us about working with a financial advisor. Just as a reminder, you will be getting a survey post-webinar tomorrow to just give us some feedback on your thoughts. And anyone who's participated in any of the webinars will automatically be entered into a draw. Winners will be notified by email within the next couple of days. So here we are. It's the last of our series of webinars. I'm going to turn it over to Michael now.
Great. Thank you, Angela. And thank you very much to all who are attending today. I'm really excited to be here. And it's may sound a bit odd, why I'd be excited about giving a presentation on working with a financial advisor. I think really in the world of financial landscape, with all the literature and presentations that one attends, this is really a topic that tends to be glossed over a fair bit, unfortunately, but it's a really important key element in, getting your financial well-being together and making sure that you're on the right track. So today we're going to cover off, what it's like to work with a financial advisor and a couple of the steps involved in doing that. So first of all, why even work with a financial advisor? Lots of people look at this and say, well, you know what, the markets go up, the markets go down. At the end of the day, it all works out, and I don't really have a control, and it doesn't really make any difference. Actually, that's really not the case, and we'll see how that tends, why that is so. What is a financial advisor? Lots of people make the assumption, well, it's somebody who helps me, with my investments, but a financial advisor actually does so much more. And the other thing that we want to look at is, are all financial advisors equal? And the truth is no. The reality is there are different types of financial advisor one can be dealing with, and certainly it's important to choose the one that makes the most sense for you. And when we talk about choice, how do you choose a financial advisor? Angela and I were talking about this earlier, and most people, when they choose an advisor, it's really by default. It's either somebody that their parents were dealing with, or it's somebody that happens to be at the bank branch you're dealing with, or what have you. So they just kind of, start dealing with that person. But again, although they may be a great advisor for a client in a particular situation, it may not be the right fit for you guys as well. What's it like to work with a financial advisor? A lot of people think it's, oh my God, it's going to be like this big onerous task, and they're going to, make me, embarrassed that I don't know this and I don't know this. I don't want to deal with it. It's actually not that at all. A good financial advisor really is like a partner, is like a guide to kind of guide you through, different stages of your life, no matter where you are, and present some options to you, which make more sense, and also give you strategies to deal with different scenarios in case they happen. Because the reality is, nobody's life is static. Things do come up, unexpected changes happen, and it's important to have options available to there as well. And where do you go for more information? There's a lot of stuff available out there, and how do you get more information on how to choose a financial advisor? So we'll give you some links for that too as well. So the first thing is, why work with a financial advisor? As I said, as I said, there's a lot of people say, well, it doesn't matter, it's all the same. That's not entirely true. And, I always I always look at, financial advisors. It's almost like, I used to like watching cooking shows on TV. The Food Network was really fun and all that. And I may be going into dangerous ground here, because I'm going to start talking about food during everyone's lunch hour. So that may be a bit of an issue, but be that as it may, if you see somebody making a beautiful meal on one of these cooking shows and you want to replicate it, you go to the grocery store, and you say, okay, they're making a roast beef or something like that. Well, what kind of beef do I buy? And if they have this on sale, is that the right kind of beef? And what other ingredients do I need, and how do I put it together? And do I have to keep on monitoring it and babysitting it? And what do I got to look out for? If it's the first time you're doing that, or if you've been doing it for a while, you know, you're leaving a lot to chance, and it may or may not turn out well. But same with your financial well-being. Having a good financial advisor there kind of guides you through the process and helps you not just develop strategies, but also sometimes consider things that you might not have considered, but have a very real impact on your financial well-being. But, so working with a financial advisor is important. But the reality is, while a lot of people say, it doesn't really matter, the reality is most Canadians aren't comfortable or don't have a good relationship with their money. And looking at a couple of, the status quo right now, FP Canada did a number of polls and surveys recently. And what they found was money is the #1 source of stress in Canadians' lives at the present time. And this poll actually was done in 2021, so it's the latest one that we have. A lot of the banks seem to do these polls too as well, but I wanted to choose one that was a bit more objective, that didn't have, that was from an organization that wasn't trying to sell anything. But the reality is 77% of Canadians report money as their primary source of stress. And, it's no surprise, because 35% of those worry about having enough for retirement, and another 35% worry about day-to-day finances involving bills and expenses. And with inflation the way it is right now and the cost of everything going up, I wouldn't be surprised if we were to conduct this survey now that this number even increased higher as well. So what happens is, when people are worrying about money, the reason they're worrying about money is they don't have a lot of confidence in their finances and their financial well-being. 41% of Canadians don't feel confident when speaking about their finances. They feel embarrassed, they're not 100% sure. And, they really don't feel, comfortable where they are in regard to their finances. And equally as scary, if we break it down and look at women specifically, 38% of Canadian women admit to knowing very little about finances and investments. And that's a frightening statistic in and of itself, because if you scratch down even below the surface of that, there's no difference between single women or partnered women. It doesn't matter what their relationship status is. They tend to admit to knowing very little about their money. And quite honestly, I always thought these numbers were a bit higher. They came in higher than I would have expected. The other thing that's changed out there is intergenerational factors have changed drastically. 48% of Canadians with children over the age of 18 reported they expect to help their children financially in purchasing their first home. And anybody who lives in a large metropolitan area in Canada, certainly, that's a reality. And most of the clients that I've spoken to over the last several years, that tends to come up in the conversation. But what doesn't tend to come up in the conversation is 39% of these people also expect to delay their retirement as a result of helping their kids out. So it is having a huge impact, not just the economy, but also how people are planning as well. And it's not just parents helping their kids out, but it's also kids helping out their parents as well. 14% of Canadians age 18 to 34, so what we call the Gen Zs and some of the Gen Xs right now, expect to have to financially support their parents in their parents' retirement. And 18% of these people, and these are young people as well, they still have a lot of time ahead of them, they still expect that helping them out will delay their retirement too as well. So there's a lot that's changed out there. Canadians don't have a great relationship about their finances or their money. And in addition, to complicate matters, Canadians are living longer. In 1965, the average life expectancy in Canada was age 72. Now, the reason I picked 1965 is that's the year the Canada Pension Plan was introduced in Canada. So that's where we had universal contributor pension plans introduced in there. And the reason the benefits were, most people work to age 65, so the government figured, well, you got another 6 years ahead of you, on average, and then, chances are you'll probably die off by then. So, but the thing is, in a generation later, that life expectancy increased by 7 years to 79, and a generation later, now we're looking at a life expectancy of 83. So in 2 generations, the life expectancy of Canadians has increased by 11 years, which is, if you look from a statistical point of view, that's unbelievable. So that's 11 years more income that people are going to be looking at. And and another study that I saw, which was quite interesting, is that in a partnered relationship, if one of the partners, if both partners make it to age 65, then there's a 75% chance that one of those partners will still live beyond the age of 90. So people are living an awful lot longer. So again, they're less confident about their money. They don't have a great relationship. And to compound matters worse, people are living a lot longer. The other thing is, how planning has changed as well. Investing has become more complicated. There's over 5,000 mutual funds available in Canada right now. How does one even begin to properly go through everything and choose? Over 2,200 stocks on the TSX. And this is just in Canada. If you start adding in investments through the United States and globally, it's an enormous amount. Insurance products are becoming more complicated. Gone are the days where people just bought an insurance policy and they paid their premiums until they died. There's a whole myriad of different insurance policies out there. So even insurance products are becoming more complicated, and tax sheltered government programs have expanded as well. You look at the RSP limits that change every year. You look at what's happened to the TFSA accounts, where they've allowed for additional savings, and those limits change every year. And so really, things have become a bit more complicated. And what I should have included on this slide, which I didn't, unfortunately, is while this has all changed, as Canadians have been living longer, and as all the rules have changed, a lot of companies have stopped offering defined benefit pension plans. If you're a government employee or a former government employee, you're one of the few remaining groups of Canadians who still participate in the defined benefit plan. Most Canadians are left to, if their company has a pension plan, it's a defined contribution, where what they get out is based on what they put into it, and how that portfolios performs. So they have to choose their own investments while they're in a defined contribution, or they're in a group RSP plan where they have to make contributions, and their company may or may not match contributions. But be that as it may, whether it's a defined contribution pension plan or a group RSP, or if the company you're working for has no retirement plan, all the work has been shifted over to the individual. It's gone from the company. The risk and the investment decision has gone out of the hands of professionals and gone over towards individuals. So individuals are really faced with one of two decisions. They either go and find a financial advisor to help them with this stuff, or do it on their own. And sometimes having a little bit of knowledge is a dangerous thing. And I'm not saying that people can't do it, but it can be a full-time job. And that's not the purpose of investing your money, or especially enjoying one's retirement. So the bottom line is, looking at this all, the risk to Canadians is not just their uncertainty with their money, but also their uncertainty what to do with their money. And there's four threats to everyone's financial well-being. First one is taking on more risk than necessary. I've been doing this. I've been an investment professional for about 30 years, and I've been a financial planner out of those 30 years for over 20 years now. Now I think about it. The biggest thing that I see is people taking on more risk than is necessary in their portfolios. And this is because there's a fundamental flaw in how they've been advised in their portfolios. They've been advised, or they've been focusing on returns, their portfolio, rather than managing risk. If you're focused on returns, you're always going to be chasing the hot story, the hot part of the market, the investment product or area that's getting the most attention in the financial press or on the internet at the time. Successful portfolio management is about managing risk. So taking on more risk than necessary is really something you don't want to do when you're managing a portfolio. The second thing is overpaying for what you're getting. You know, many products, and the reality of this industry is people pay for their financial services. They either pay directly through a fee-based account or they pay indirectly where the investment company will compensate the advisor. But overpaying for what you're getting can be again, it's one of those things. If you're paying more than what you need to get what you need, then you're better off keeping that money in your pocket rather than overpaying for it. So, you know, looking at doing a risk audit or a financial audit of one's portfolio is always a prudent thing to do. And that's always good to go to, like, maybe another advisory or another financial institution, just to have somebody have a look at it to see if you're not paying more than you have to. Paying more in fees is not the only place you may overpay. Paying more in taxes that you might have to. You know, again, the reality is we all have to pay taxes. We pay taxes on our income. We pay taxes on properties. We also have to pay taxes on any income that we receive in our investment portfolios if they're not sheltered. And so, you know, that being said, there are strategies out there to reduce the overall tax that you may wind up paying in your household. And lots of times we see, and I'm not just saying myself, my colleagues as well, we see that people overlook them. And it's not like it's tax evasion. So it's not like you're not paying taxes, you're doing something illegal. It's tax avoidance, where you're basically reducing the amount of taxes that you pay. I heard an old saying once a long time ago. It says, you know, we do have to pay our taxes, and that's okay, but that doesn't mean we have to leave a tip too as well. So, you know, paying more for taxes is something that, you know, doing a tax audit of one's portfolio is also important as well. The other one that we really see are plans or strategies that become obsolete or ineffective. People's lives change, and what worked for them maybe 5 years ago may not be working for them now, or may not be the best solution for them now. Or you have plans that are basically, you know, written up once, put on a shelf, and never looked at again, never addressed, and you know, really they're obsolete and they become ineffective. A good financial plan should be a roadmap and should be the guide going forward for any client or any individual to not only gauge if they're on track, but also to re-examine to make sure that the strategies that are still they're still employing still make sense for them as well. So these are 4 very easy threats to address in one's portfolio, and these are all done with a financial planner and with the benefit of a financial planner too as well, or financial advisor. You know, so when we're reducing risk and choosing a financial advisor, and say you want to choose one, well, what is a financial advisor? You know, that's a fundamental thing, because everybody, the reality is, there's, you know, anyone can call themselves a financial advisor, but what does a good financial advisor do? Someone who looks at your whole picture before providing you options. They don't come at you with products right away, or they don't say, well, you need this or you need this. And I'm not just talking about investments. I'm also talking about credit products too as well, like the lowest cost of borrowing and the like. So they try to find out more about you first. What's important to you? What's your relationship with money? And you know, and what your money needs are now and in the future too as well. Someone who has a philosophy about money which puts the individual first. This one, again, it sounds a bit kind of, you know, a bit philosophical, but it's so true. you want to deal with somebody who has a philosophy about money that puts the individual first. I know at Rapport, our whole name is basically about having a philosophy about money, which with Rapport being a good place to talk about your money and a comfortable and safe place to talk about your money too as well. So somebody should, anyone you're dealing with should have a philosophy about money. And it should be something other than we're getting the best returns for my clients possible. That's not a philosophy at all. Someone who's now, again, I've been in this business for 30 years. I'm learning, and I'm always learning, and I always find out things that I don't know, because the industry has changed. The industry keeps on changing. So, not everybody has all the answers out there, and so you want to deal with somebody who's honest. So somebody who's not afraid to say, you know what, I don't know, or I'm not 100% sure, but I know where to find someone who does know, or I know where to find the answer. That it basically, that message right there essentially tells you that they actually care about your money and they care about getting you the right answer. I have seen so many examples in my career where people have made the wrong decision because they relied on bad information from somebody who didn't have the whole story and was pretending that they did. So, someone who's not afraid to say, I don't know, and get the right answer for you is gold in this business. Someone who works as your advocate to solve your financial concerns, who basically takes ownership and says, you know what, I understand where you are right now. You want to plan for your children's education. Let's see what your options are. So they'll go out and really construct a good strategy to beyond just products, but also to say, okay, what do you have to save a year? How much is the government going to contribute? How much can you afford to contribute? And what's that going to look like down the road? And really, what would the cost of education down the road be as well? To explore those options too as well, to look to say, okay, well, if your child stays at home, or if your child goes or wants to live on campus or on their own, what are all those costs going to look at? So you can plan accordingly, and going into it with both eyes open, what you may be potentially facing down the road. Someone who's not transactional, and by transactional, I mean they'll do something only if they get business out of it, or or if they do a transaction for you, so they buy a bunch of products or they invest a bunch of products for you, you never hear from them again until it's time, for you to contribute more money. So somebody who's not based on, is not transactional, somebody who's actually is set up to do regular reviews with you on your portfolio. Someone who's not a salesperson. Again, every, financial institutions and banks and insurance companies and the like, they all have targets to hit. And many of these individuals, are, depending on the institution, they're reminded on a daily basis what their targets are. So they're always trying to sell you something. It was even frightening. I went into, a bank that I deal with outside of Rapport as well. And the person at I went to get a bank draft, and the person at the counter was actually trying to sell me a Visa card. And I'm going like, I'm just here for bank drafting, and it's a big discussion, so it's everybody. As soon as you walk in the door, it's almost like you're a target. So you want to, again, not dealing with an organization or an individual who's just trying there to sell you something. So are all financial advisors equal? The short answer is no. The landscape of financial advisors in Canada is very confusing. There's over 121,000 registered financial professionals in Canada. They could be registered through the investment through IIROC, which is the Investment Industry Representative Association of Canada, or they could be registered through the Mutual Fund Dealers Association, the MFDA, or they can be registered through various insurance bodies, depending where you are and in which province. So there's all sorts of registrations out there. But the quality of the advice is gonna be different, and the scope of what they can advise you on is going to be different depending on their registration. Titles are not always clear. People call themselves financial advisors, financial planners. Well, the only people who can call themselves financial planners are people who have a certified financial planner designation or a qualified associate financial planner designation in Ontario now. They call themselves investment advisors, wealth specialists, investment specialists. The titles go on and on and on and on. So the titles are not very clear as well. There's also other add-on titles which are awarded based on sales: President's Club, Chairman's Club, Vice President sometimes on the investment side, especially on the brokerage side. Those are only awarded based on the amount of sales that they've been able to do. So I'm not saying that these people may not be great advisors, but those titles show nothing on their advisory ability other than but have everything to do with their selling ability. So it's something that you want to watch out for too as well. As I said, only CFPs and qualified QAFPs can call themselves financial planners in Ontario, and that only was brought into law in the past year. Prior to that, anyone could call themselves a financial planner. So again, it's very important to look that into. And the quality of financial advice spans a wide spectrum. Some people will do very good in-depth reviews for clients and advice. And some people's advice are, honestly, I've seen plans that I could have done on my calculator in 10 minutes, and not even 10 minutes, in 10 seconds. So really, that whole spectrum of advice could be anywhere. Now that I've confused you all, well, how do you choose a financial advisor then? What is, the best way to choose somebody? But, and in looking at that, before we get into that, well, I kind of went ahead here. I got things out of here. Well, here's some tips to look at and red flags, and then we'll go back to the other slide. I messed up in the order here. I'm sorry. Make sure there's a fit between the advisor and you. Early on, I said that, what may work for your parents or what may work for your neighbor may not be the best advisor for you because they may be in a different situation. So make sure there's a fit between you. Make sure they understand and they listen to what you're saying, rather than, trying to get you in and out of the door quickly. It's important for an advisor to understand you as an individual and what your challenges are and what your relationship with money is too as well. Please be completely transparent in providing information. Sometimes people only want to give part of the story. And if they're only giving part of the story, you may not get good advice. And the example I always use is if you went to a doctor and you said, what, I have a headache, and the doctor asks you some questions about diet, and you said, well, the problem's with my head, not my stomach. Let's just focus on my head. That's not going to really help one out as well. So, be transparent. Again, it's important to know, especially when it's your money that's involved. So, that's one a good thing, place to come from. It takes time to produce quality work. Be patient. If an advisor comes up with comes up with a financial plan for you within 2 days, run, because obviously they've already had something in a file folder in the desk, and the only thing they've changed is put your name on it and maybe the date. So it takes time to produce quality work. Sometimes, depending on how complex the financial plan takes, it can take a few weeks. Because there's a lot of research that has to be done. The numbers are the easy part, figuring out the numbers. It's the research and the strategies that take the most part. And doing what if scenarios. So, I've spent many times working through financial plans and saying, okay, well, if we tried this, how's that going to look compared to this, right? And then, or compared to this. And sometimes the numbers work out great, and sometimes the numbers don't work out as well. So you have to go back and then do some other work. So it does take time. A plan should be more about strategies than products. That's really important. If your plan is just about mutual funds or stocks to buy or a list or some sort of marketing thing on a managed portfolio that somebody is providing, and there's very little in that plan that's based on your discussions with them, then maybe it's not the right advisor for you. 80% of your plan, and when I say plan, it's usually a written document, should be about the strategies that you're looking at. And only 20% at the most should be about any products. If you don't understand, ask for clarity. This is a key one. Don't be embarrassed. We all have our areas of expertise. I've had clients, very intelligent clients, and have expertise in certain areas, and you can see they're embarrassed to ask because they think they're going to be seen as stupid. Never, don't ever be afraid to ask the advisor for clarity. Again, it's your money, and not understanding puts you in a potentially vulnerable position. Watch out for generic or boilerplate text in plans. There's a lot of stuff in plans, and everybody uses financial planning software, right? Including us at Rapport. There's nothing, there's no secret there. And a lot of this software comes with boilerplate text. So, everything in there should be about you. Some of the generic stuff may make sense if it's appropriate, but lots of times it's not appropriate. And I've read plans that have been given to people with text in it that had no relevance to them, but the advisors just jammed through the numbers as quick as possible to get the deals through. So watch out for that kind of stuff as well, especially if it doesn't apply. That should be a red flag. The plan should set out action items in a review schedule. This is one that most plans I've seen don't have, which is very, very bizarre. And the action items should be beyond just saying, okay, buy this mutual fund and buy this mutual fund, or buy that stock or buy this bond. It should be, okay, a whole list of steps that one has to take. And then how often you've agreed to review this with the advisor too as well. Some people need a quarterly review. Some people need a semi-annual review. Some people only need an annual review. There's no thing that's set in stone. I always want to set it up with the client. And if, and I will tell you, some clients are impossible to get a hold of, even on an annual basis, but it's important to make the time, at least a half an hour out of your year, to meet with your financial advisor, make sure that you're on track, and make sure that everything is still appropriate in there, because your life may have changed, right? And you may not think it has an impact, but a good financial advisor will recognize that and suggest changing your plan accordingly. So it's really important to know that too as well. Now, I kind of skipped over here, what does the whole financial planning process look like? Where did I go here? There's really 6 stages of a financial relationship that's here. And this is pretty much every financial relationship should go through this. So, we'll go through these quickly. And this is a great graph that's provided by the Financial Planning Standards Board of the US. The FP Canada used to have one like this, but for some reason they took it off their website. I don't know why. I think they wanted to put other things on, but that being said, it basically says the same thing. So the first part is of any financial relationship is define the relationship with the client. What is the client looking for? I always ask people, what is your expectations? What do you want out of this relationship? What do you need to achieve, right? And then you collect all the client's information. So really, that's the whole discovery process. That's the longest part of all of this, really. It's not just collecting statements and the like, but finding out more about you and your situation, what your goals are, what your limitations are, what your fears are, and what your priorities are. And these are, it's all about understanding you. Then what we do is we go back and we analyze. So we analyze where you are right now. We see what still makes sense and what may need to be adjusted. And then we'll develop a financial plan recommendation. So in a recommendation, a good recommendation will not just have one solution, because there's never any one solution that fits all. A good recommendation will give you a couple of options. And the options should always indicate which is the better of the two options. And it should be pretty clear on your understanding too as well. It should be written in plain language, not in a lot of financial jargon. And it should be, and this is your point, to ask any questions that you don't understand. It should be about and then implementing the strategy. Remember when I said on the earlier slide, having a schedule or an action plan? This is where that action plan comes in. And also the schedule for reviews comes next. Now, what you see here as well is the process doesn't stop right at the end of the review. It goes over again. At the review, maybe the relationship isn't established, but what you're doing here is you're reestablishing the relationship. So you're basically saying, okay, it's your chance to ask the advisor what's been going on in regard to my portfolio over the last quarter or half year or full year, what's been going on in the markets, and how's that looked. And it's also the advisors, and then the advisor can collect any new information, reanalyze, develop any changes in strategy if necessary, implement those changes with your consent, and then we do the review again. So it's a continuous process. It's something that every advisor should be doing with their clients. If you're not doing with your advisor now, you should be asking them why not. Now I'm going to skip over this as well. So where do I go for help? Now that we've gone through this whole process about choosing an advisor, where does one go to get more information? Well, you can deal with your current financial institution. Every financial institution has some sort of advisory services available to them, and find out what services that they do have there. The one thing that's unfortunate is, because a lot of banks are basically focused on maximizing profit, a lot of people who need financial advice, the banks won't put their best financial advisors in front of them, because they leave those for the ones that make them the most money. But again, or have the most money usually. But that's not the case at Rapport. We don't look at people on their asset size. We basically look and say, okay, you've come to us for help, whether you have $1,000, $10,000, or $10 million. We're going to give you the best possible advice for your situation. You can go to friends and family members, see who's working for them. Again, that's to help you build a list. I don't think you should just choose one right off the bat, unless it's a match made in heaven. But you should, shop around and have a couple of people and interview a couple of advisors to find out, where's the best fit and, how they operate. Again, one advisor and maybe a great advisor, but they're not the best advisor for you, right? And so you got to find that right fit. You can go to professional associations, FP Canada, the insurance regulators, the accountant associations and the like. They'll all be able to provide you some guidance too as well. Go to your accountant or a lawyer if you're dealing with that as well. But I should warn you that many accountants and lawyers also try to play the role of financial advisor too as well. That's a huge mistake, although they will tell you otherwise. I tell clients all the time, I'm not an accountant and I'm not a lawyer, but these are some things that you can ask your accountant and lawyer about if you're dealing with one. But I'm never going to pretend to be one. For some reason, lawyers and accountants, and some of them, I'm not saying all of them, some of them will say, hey, they'll try to do everything. And they say, well, you don't need a financial advisor, you can do it all here, or the accountant says, I can do all that for you. At the end of the day, they may not be licensed, or they may be dealing with somebody or put you to an advisor who they may have a professional or even a business relationship where they get paid for referrals. So it's something that you may want to, but it's a good starting point too as well. The other thing is you want to look at is there's some online resources. So you can look at registration. You can look at, the Canadian Securities Administrators shows all the people who are registered to sell securities in Canada, whether they're MFDA or IROC licensed, and if there's been any sanctions against them too as well. The Insurance Advisory Registry, that's through FSRA, the Financial Services Regulatory Authority of Ontario. They license all the insurance advisors in Ontario. So if you're looking to see if your insurance advisor is registered, that's the place to go. There's Investor Resources and Investment Advisor Registry on the Ontario Securities Commission. There's also some material there on how to choose an advisor. On financial planning, FP Canada, which registers all the certified financial planners and qualified associate financial planners in Canada, has a great resource to find an advisor. And they'll find people if you have a language preference, or people have various specialties. They'll certainly you can certainly narrow down your search there as well. And you can, if you're looking for financial advice and tools and calculators, we have a number of them on as well. Also the Investor Education Fund. But really looking at it all, another great resource is us. Reach out to us if you're having any making any financial decisions. We have our personal account managers and wealth advisors will be more than happy to help you out here at any time, and we'll tell you whether you're right fit for us or not, and which direction to go to as well. I really want to thank you everyone for joining today. We do have a couple of questions at the end. Let me just see the questions here. Is there a site we can visit to ensure someone is licensed as a financial advisor provincially and even within Rapport itself? Yeah, absolutely. If you go to the CSA, the Canadian Securities Administrators, they will show that, they will have that too as well. Absolutely. So we can open up to any other questions if anyone's got anything there. I'm sorry, I have a cat that's walking around here, so you're probably hearing meowing.
How adorable. They just are naturally attracted to laptop screens. I think
exactly
the warmth of
it's the warmth and exactly right.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
If anybody else has a question, please feel free to use the Q&A box. If you think of something after, you can always reach out to us at help@rapportcu.ca. And we'll just give it one more minute just to see if anything else comes through. And again, thanks everybody for attending today. You are automatically entered into a draw, and winners will be announced by email in the next couple of days. So thanks again, Michael, for all of your hard work. Putting together our presentations, speaking to our members. This has been a great financial literacy month. I think we've done a lot to educate our members, improve their financial literacy, and overall working towards improve their financial wellness. So thanks again to you and your team.
Oh, great. No, we're more than happy to do it. And thank you for giving us the opportunity. And again, it's just to reiterate what Angela said. If you have any questions in regard to what we spoke about today or anything else on the other topics that we spoke about this month, by all means, or if you missed one of the presentations and you wanted to get some more information on it, just reach out to us. We'll be more than happy to guide you in the right direction and certainly give you the information that you're looking for.
Yep, copies of all the webinar recordings will be available on our financial wellness page. A link will be available on the homepage once the videos are all uploaded.
Exactly.
We'll be back in early February to talk about RRSPs and TFSAs, because obviously March 1st, 2023 will be the RSP deadline. So it'll be timely to talk about, you know, what the right product is to save and make your contributions in.
Right.
Okay, terrific.
Thank
Thanks
you.
so much again, Michael. Have a great
Not a problem.
day.
Yeah, you
Thanks,
too.
everybody.
Take care, Al. Bye-bye.